You are listening to Julia's Trucking Cafe News Hour. Welcome to Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy that you're here and that you want to listen to the trucking news. As always, I have lots of news to get to, so let's get right to it. In this story, a water rescue is deployed for a truck driver stuck in a river. This happened March 6th in Salt Lake City. The fire department there performed what had been described as a water rescue over the weekend after a semi-truck ended up in a canal. According to the local news, the semi-truck swerved off the road and into the Jordan River Surplus Canal, leaving the driver stranded. Luckily, the driver was uninjured and firefighters were able to get them to safety. The Utah Department of Health was then called because diesel fuel spilled into the canal. It's been so long since I've been doing this, I'm a little bit rusty. Up next, Pennsylvania Turnpike is named world's most expensive toll road. Well, if you've been out on the road any length of time, you will definitely know this for certain. A new study analyzing tolling practices on hundreds of roadways worldwide to rank which ones are the most expensive. This study was recently released by Australian insurance provider. Researchers examined tolling practices on more than 400 roads worldwide, quote, to see just which ones are the most expensive and which ones are the cheapest, end quote. Tolls were calculated using the highest possible passenger vehicle toll for the entire roadway. In the ranking of the most expensive toll roads in the world, Pennsylvania Turnpike came in at number 1, with the New York State Thruway making an appearance at number 8, the Florida Turnpike coming in at number 9, the Ohio Turnpike at number 14, Texas State Highway 130 at number 17, and New Jersey Turnpike at number 18. The study also ranked the most expensive tolls in the U.S. by the highest passenger vehicle rate for using the entire toll road. So I will let you look at these in the show notes that will be on the website at juliastruckingcafe.com under podcast and then show notes. In January of 2021, toll increases went into effect on the PA Pike for the 13th year in a row. In 2018, Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, affectionately known as OOIDA, filed suit against PA for excessive toll increases, which they say hampered interstate commerce. The suit was dismissed on April 4th in the U.S. District Court of the Middle District of Pennsylvania, April 4th of 2019, that is, and OOIDA is working on an appeal for that one. And up next, a double-sided mistake, or is it one trucker's failure to check his mirrors? The blame for a near collision might just fall on both drivers in this near-miss video. The clip posted by a fellow truck driver shows the driver merging onto a highway and hanging out in the lane. Then another truck driver who seems to have moved over to let the driver onto the freeway nearly clips the driver in an attempt to move into the right lane. Luckily, a collision was avoided when the driver that was doing the video moved onto the shoulder. All he had to do was slow down. He says, "Okay, drivers, check your mirrors before changing lanes," he wrote. "Just last week, this happened to me when I was still next to him. Could have been a big mess if I didn't take the shoulder," they continued. "There again, slow down. Don't merge onto the doggone interstate and expect to pass somebody when you're still in the right lane. Back out of it. Let the driver that was gracious enough to move over for you so you can come onto the interstate, pass you, and then he can move over to the left lane. Don't sit there and be a hot dog and run up beside him in the right lane. That's a stupid move." And it's kind of funny that he had to use the shoulder. All he had to do was back out of it. But back to the article. But viewers of the video clip weren't so sure and took to comments to let the poster know that he would be considered in the wrong as well. quote, looks like a careless mistake. However, for future reference, after entering the freeway, like I just said, let any vehicles who switched lanes to let you on get back in the right lane, like I just said. They did you a courtesy, and it's polite to let them back instead of hanging in their blind spot, someone pointed out. Another person wrote, if he was looking in his mirrors, checking his flat mirrors and convex mirrors, or this would not have happened. If the person stayed behind him to let him come back into his lane, this would be courteous, and this also would not have happened. It's double-sided. Someone else wrote, I'm guessing he did that on purpose because he moved over to let you on the freeway. Instead of waiting 2 seconds to let him hop back in, you hung him out in the lane. I've heard many livid over that. And if you'd like to watch this video clip in its entirety, there again, like I mentioned, it will be in the show notes. And up next, what you've been waiting for, a trailer is torn to shreds in a wreck that blocked the Ben Franklin Bridge. Traffic was blocked on the Ben Franklin Bridge headed towards Philadelphia. I'll talk eventually. Due to a seriously wrecked semi-truck. According to the local news, the truck was hauling onions when it overturned in the westbound lanes of the bridge. This happened March 8th. And scattered its load across the freeway just above the old city section of Philly. The driver had to be rescued from inside the wrecked cab, and at the time his condition was not known. Drivers are encouraged to use the Walt Whitman Bridge at that time or Betty Ross Bridge as alternate routes. Changing slides. And in this story, a motorist killed by a fast-moving semi-truck after stepping out of his disabled vehicle. This also happened on March 8th. A motorist was killed on an interstate in Indiana after stepping out of this disabled car and into the path of a semi. This happened around 10 to 3 in the morning near Austin, Indiana. According to the local news, 25-year-old Stefan Porch was driving on Interstate 65 northbound with 5 people in his vehicle when it collided with either a semi-truck or a box truck. That vehicle quickly fled the scene, but Porch's vehicle was left disabled in the middle of the highway. Porch then exited his vehicle and stepped out onto the highway, straight into the path of an oncoming semi. Trucker Barbario Trezen-Schuler was unable to avoid hitting him, but was not injured in the crash. When police arrived on scene, Porch was pronounced dead, and his 4 passengers were transported to a nearby hospital for evaluation of potential injuries from the first crash. No significant injuries were then found. Besides the death, the incident is still under investigation, and police urge anyone with potential information on the driver of the truck of the first crash to please contact the Indiana State Police Sellersburg Post. That's Sellersburg Post, to let somebody know who hit that car to begin with and then fled the scene. Our condolences go to the family of Mr. Porch. Now, I don't want to scare anybody, but this upcoming visual might give you nightmares. Police are searching for a woman who spat on a trucker several times in a road rage incident. Could you imagine seeing that face in your window? Ooh. Police in Pennsylvania are asking for public help in locating a woman they say verbally assaulted and spat on a trucker during a road rage incident. Incident occurred in Tilden Township, Pennsylvania at 12:30 in the afternoon. Police say that a female motorist in a red Suzuki sedan cut in front of the victim's truck. After stopping the sedan, police say the woman jumped out of her car, climbed up on the driver's side of the truck. She was irate, pounding on the window, screaming profanities at him. She then opened the driver's side door and began screaming profanities in their face. Keep your damn door locked. She then spat directly at the victim's face several times while he was on the phone with 911 operator. The truck driver was able to snap several photos of the woman during the incident. Like I said, scary. Authorities are asking anyone with information on this incident to call the Tilden Township Police Department at 610-562-9001. 610-562-9001. Or you could leave an anonymous tip. It can be sent to Crime Alert Berks at 877-373-9913. That's 877-373-9913. And if you're listening to this on the podcast side, yeah, kind of scary. I wouldn't want to see that in my window. It'd give me nightmares for a week. Now, sadly, in this next story, our top story, a homeless elderly trucker freezes to death in his cab, inspiring a Texas community to do better. A community in Texas is looking to share a tragic story of a homeless veteran and truck driver who perished in last month's ice storms as a way to encourage themselves and others to do better. Truck driver and military veteran Robert Wack, W-A-C-K, was originally from the Midwest. But when his rig broke down in Mexico, Texas years ago, he was out of options, so he stayed, capturing the hearts of Mexico's residents. Residents of Mexia say that members of their community worked to help the 81-year-old homeless man for years. But during the state's recent ice storm, he fell through the cracks with fatal results. As the snow, ice, and sub-zero temperatures plagued the state, Wack froze to death in the cab of his truck with nowhere else to go. Once the weather began to improve, citizens called police for a welfare check on him, but it was already too late. Devastated by the loss and apparent shortcomings of the system, the town is now looking to share his story in hopes it will inspire others and even themselves to do better by our country's veterans. It's incredibly sad, and I do think a lot of the community tried to check in on him. It got away from us. The cold weather and with everything going on, he ended up passing in the cold. It's always difficult when someone you work with has a tragic death like this. Veteran partners stepped in a lot of ways, especially Glenn Clark. We had gotten him into a hotel one time, said Joseph Robert, a fellow veteran, who is active with the Veteran Partners of Texas, located in Mexia. That aim is to help the veterans who have fallen through the cracks of other supporter organizations. It's always difficult when someone you worked with has a tragic death like this. We had gotten him... I'm sorry, that's a repeat. I found out a week ago that Bob had passed away. I dropped by Bob's truck on a number of occasions, bringing him food, groceries, and even pizza. He was 81. In his final years, Bob went unnoticed by many, but not today. His story had been told, and he will be remembered. In the memorial, they really do care, and they want to pay tribute to a man that some of them knew and some didn't. No one is forgotten, and everyone lives on in those that remember, and hopefully this will never happen again. A number of these people in his heart have become family. You always just hope and pray. What can we do better? If you're a veteran and you're out here, get a hold of us. We want to help. Give us a chance to help. We can't do everything, but we don't say no to do something. Robert's children have been since located in Missouri, where his ashes will be laid to rest. At least they found him home. I don't understand why he wasn't, and who knows what the situation could be. You can't judge somebody, but why weren't his children really notified? And in this next story, a semi-truck is burned to a crisp after a pickup truck loses the mattress. Police in Texas say that an unsecured mattress was to blame for a fire that destroyed a semi-truck back on March 9th. Police say that a pickup truck traveling northbound on 281 lost a mattress that it was transporting. The mattress flew onto the roadway and went under the semi-truck, who was also northbound on 281. The mattress caught fire, which in turn caused the truck to catch fire. The truck driver was able to get out of the vehicle in time but wasn't hurt. These images that you see are captured at the scene show that the truck was completely destroyed by the fire. The local news outlet reports that the pickup truck driver left the scene before police arrived. Well, of course. I'm not saying that's right, but of course they would leave. And in this story, thieves are caught stealing rims from a trucking company, offered to pay for them before fleeing. Two men were caught stealing truck rims from a trucking company in Michigan. Week of March 9th. This incident occurred March 2nd, around 3:30 in the afternoon. According to the local news outlet, the owner of Tyler's Trucking caught the two men loading 9 rims into the back of a pickup truck at his business and blocked the vehicle with his own pickup truck before calling the cops. The two suspects then offered to pay for the rims they were attempting to steal, but soon fled the scene on foot, one of them carrying a small child. 2 women were left at the scene sitting inside the pickup truck. Police questioned the women, but later released them with no charges. Officers eventually located the 2 men that were trying to steal the rims and took them into custody. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that one of the men had an outstanding felony warrant and that the 2 were planning to sell the rims for scrap at a local metal recycling business. It was also discovered that the suspects were responsible for scrapping $800 worth of other tire rims and brake calipers from businesses in that area. Suspects were booked in the county jail on larceny charges. And in this story, a trucker involved with a Mexican drug cartel sentenced for transporting nearly $2 million in drug profits. A trucker caught smuggling drug money across the country had been sentenced to 6 years in prison for his involvement with the Mexican drug cartel. 52-year-old Edgar Serrano was taken into custody last year, April 17, 2020, when authorities discovered $1,758,465 worth of drug money hidden inside of a semi-truck in Hidalgo County, Texas. He later pleaded guilty November 2nd. I remember reporting on this story, admitting that he transported the money and proceeds from the sale of illegal drugs from Florida to the Rio Grande Valley in Texas as part of a drug smuggling operation headed by Mexican drug cartel. As a part of his plea, Serrano agreed to hand over the money obtained from the sale of cocaine. Police investigation revealed that semi-trucks would pick up cocaine in South Texas and haul it to Florida, where it would be sold for cash. Truck drivers like Serrano would then pick up the cash made from selling the cocaine and bring it back to Texas, where it would then be transported back to Mexico for delivery to the cartel members. On Tuesday, March 9th, U.S. District Court judge sentenced Serrano for 72 months in prison, immediately followed by 3 years of supervised release, parole. Currently, Serrano is permitted to remain on bond and will be required to voluntarily surrender a U.S. Bureau of Prisons facility once a date and location to, Currently, Serrano is permitted to remain on bond and will be required to voluntarily surrender to a U.S. Bureau of Prisons facility once a date and location has been determined. And now let's take a short break. This episode of Julia's Trucking Cafe is brought to you by My Patriot Supply. As truck drivers, we all know what it's like to be at a shipper's or receiver's and have to wait to be loaded for hours on end. Am I right? Especially produce coolers and paper mills. That's why you need to be prepared with extra food in your truck, especially with the bad weather coming in, like it is over here in Kansas. Up in the Dakotas and Minnesota, 90 was shut down, Interstate 94 was shut down, along with 29. What are you going to do if there's no food and a truck stop wasn't without power? That's why you need to stay prepared with My Patriot Supply. Now, it's not what you're thinking. My Patriot Supply is delicious emergency food. They have food kits that are good up to 25 years. They come in a slimline tote that you can easily store in your food pantry or under your bunk. I can speak from experience. After living through Hurricane Katrina, we were without power for 10 days, me, my mother, and son, and I. If it weren't for the MREs that were flown into us, we wouldn't have any food. There was 4 60-foot pine trees that broke in half during that storm and crossed my driveway and landlocked me in. That's when My Patriot Supply would have come in handy. If I knew then what I know now about My Patriot Supply, I definitely have some of this food stockpiled in my pantry. Now, for a limited time, you could get a 1-week supply of food in a handy and neat-looking ammo can, like you see here, for just $39. Look at all that food you get. It's a week's worth of breakfast, lunch, and dinners, just for $39. How do you get it? Where do you go, do you ask? Well, I'll tell you. just go to my website at juliastruckercafe.com, click on the Emergency Food Supply tab, scroll down and click on any of the images to find out more information and get yours today. They even offer gluten-free food for under $100. Winter weather is here. What would you do if the interstate was shut down, just like I was talking about? You need to get My Patriot Supply and get it today. Welcome back to Julia's Trucking Cafe. A dispute over tools and workspace drives trucker to murder in this story. A truck driver accused of murdering another man over the weekend of March 10th claims the attack was in self-defense. According to local news, for the last several years, 76-year-old truck driver Ronald Carpenter had been storing his tools and working on a semi-truck at a shop on 56-year-old Michael Koch's property with Koch's permission. However, at the beginning of 2021, Koch told Carpenter he wanted him off the property, and the two men apparently agreed that Carpenter would come pick up his tools and equipment on March 6th. Carpenter explained to police that when he arrived at the property on Portner Road in Nampa, Idaho, he found his tools stacked in the driveway and his shop creeper broken in half. Carpenter says he got angry and threw the broken creeper at Koch's car. That's when Koch came running out of his house in a rage. Video recorded by a doorbell camera shows Koch then picking up gravel from the driveway and throwing it at Carpenter's truck before going over to his own vehicle and grabbing a baseball bat. Koch then struck Carpenter's truck with his baseball bat before coming towards Carpenter with the bat held over his shoulder. Carpenter says that he was afraid Koch would attack him with the bat, so he grabbed a firearm from his truck, to which Koch replied, "Shoot me." Expletive. In the video, Koch raises the bat, continues to step towards Carpenter, so Carpenter shoots him, knocking him to the ground, and this is where the discrepancies start. According to Carpenter, despite a gunshot wound, Koch was still ready to swing the bat and was trying to come at Carpenter, so Carpenter shot him a second time. However, after police reviewed the footage, they determined they did not believe that there was a need for a second shot, as Koch seemed to pose no further threat. The second gunshot was 5 seconds after the first one, the detective wrote. When Koch was shot a second time, he was on the ground, did not appear to have a weapon in his hand, and did not appear to be a threat to Carpenter. After the incident, Carpenter remained on the scene and cooperated with investigators, who arrived to find Koch dead in the driveway with a baseball bat under his right leg. Carpenter is now facing second-degree murder charges and is scheduled for a preliminary hearing March 22nd. He is currently booked into the Canyon County Jail on $1 million bond. And in this story, agents seize over 100 individuals in a trio of tractor-trailer smuggling attempts. U.S. Border Patrol agents successfully stopped 3 separate smuggling attempts this week involving tractor-trailers north of Laredo. Total, agents apprehended 111 individuals. The first incident occurred on March 8th when a semi approached the checkpoint on Interstate 35. A canine suspected a vehicle at the checkpoint, and a secondary search revealed 44 individuals concealed in the trailer. The second incident occurred just minutes later when agents encountered a commercial semi hauling a tanker on the West Access Road. They conducted a vehicle stop and discovered 43 more people. And the third incident occurred during the morning of March 9th when a tractor-trailer arrived at I-35 checkpoint for an immigration inspection. A canine inspected the vehicle, and a secondary search revealed another 24 people. All the individuals were determined to be in the U.S. illegally from countries of Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico. None of the individuals were wearing personal protective equipment, PPE. All were medically screened and provided PPE. Following this, the individuals were placed under arrest pending further investigation. U.S. Border Patrol seized all of the vehicles. And remember Scary Lady from the first segment? Well, a woman accused of attacking a truck driver in a road rage incident is charged with assault and making terrorist threats. She's from Pennsylvania, and she's facing multiple charges for her alleged attack on a semi-driver earlier in the week of March. Her name is Tammy L. Ambrose, 49 years old, and been charged with terroristic threat, simple assault, recklessly endangering another person, harassment, careless driving, according to Tilden Township Police Department. The charges stem, like I mentioned earlier, about the incident that occurred on March 8th where she spit on the driver and even ripped open the door. So I'm not going to go through that again. On March 10th at 10 a.m., she made further statements via phone to a township police officer indicating her involvement. She believed that the semi-driver had cut her off earlier in traffic and wanted him to apologize to her. That is why she approached his vehicle. Charges were officially filed against Ambrose on the afternoon of March 10th. And lawmakers renew the push to allow teen truckers to operate interstate-wide, not intrastate-wide within the states. The week of March 11th, U.S. senators reintroduced confrontational legislation would allow CDL holders who are under the age of 21 to operate interstate. Developing responsible individuals for a vibrant economy is what the act is called, was reintroduced on March 10th by U.S. Senators Todd Young and John Test. A companion bill was introduced by the House by U.S. Representative Trey Hollingsworth. Lawmakers say that the bill is intended to address the driver shortage. Here we go again with the driver shortage. I quote from the article, "Today, 18-year-olds can drive more than 200 miles from New Albany to Gary and back, but they aren't allowed to drive 2 miles from New Albany to Louisville." 200 miles, it should say. The Drive Safe Act will eliminate this ridiculous regulation and in doing so address the driver shortage while providing new career opportunities for young Hoosiers. Really? The bill would change federal law that currently prohibits 18 to 21-year-olds from driving a commercial vehicle across state lines, allowing under 21-year-old CDL holders to operate interstate. I don't fucking think so. The Drive Safe Act would work by establishing an apprenticeship training program for under 21 CDL holders. Lawmakers promised that this training program would ensure these drivers are trained beyond current standards while instituting rigorous safety standards and performance benchmarks. Yeah, okay, we know about all the newbie drivers that are coming out here and how they don't teach them nothing as it is now. But yet you're going to have this apprenticeship program. Yeah, whatever. All trucks used in the apprenticeship program must be equipped with safety technology, including active braking collision mitigation systems, a video event capture system, and a speed governor set at 65 miles per hour or below. Oh, that's real safe for the roadways. The Drive Safe Act was last introduced in February 2019. Nearly identical legislation was also introduced in August 2018. Yeah, they keep pushing it. And of course, the American Trucking Association supports the bill and for years has called for changes to the law to allow younger truck drivers to operate interstate. But the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association has long opposed the idea of teen truckers for safety reasons and because they say that there is no truck driver shortage, which there is not. Just take a look around you. And up next, a seatbelt stop turns into multiple criminal charges after a driver fakes his identity. Hey. An Indiana man is facing multiple criminal charges after a traffic stop earlier in the week of this happened March 9th. According to Indiana State Police, Omar Muhammad has been charged with synthetic identity deception, that's a mouthful, forgery, obstruction of justice, and possessing a counterfeit government-issued identification, or a fake ID. Around 6 o'clock Tuesday, March 9th, Indiana State Police stopped a 2010 Volvo tractor pulling an enclosed trailer on US 31 near Miami County Road 200 near Peru, Indiana. 48-year-old driver from Indianapolis was pulled over for reportedly not wearing a seatbelt. Muhammad provided a driver's license identifying him as somebody else. After further investigation, it was revealed that the person identified on the license was wanted on a criminal arrest warrant from Texas. After this discovery, Muhammad provided his true identity and that he was driving without a valid commercial driver's license. Muhammad was arrested and booked into the county jail. See, they're trying to get away with all sorts of stuff. And in this story, a man busts through a truck windshield with bare hands to save a trapped driver. Cell phone footage captured the heroic actions of one man as he shattered the windshield of an overturned truck to save a woman who was trapped inside. This happened March 6th in Sacramento. The hero, Nicholas Lee, can be seen in the video through the glass trying to free the woman inside the cab of the truck that had tipped over on the highway. The video then shows Lee burst through the windshield from the inside using his bare hands to knock the glass out of the way, as a cop is standing right there doing nothing. Her leg was stuck the entire time I was trying to make her remain calm to pull out her leg. He was able to create an opening wide enough in the windshield that successfully helped the trapped woman escape the vehicle. She immediately ran into the arms of her daughter. Lee, his arms covered in blood, also received a huge hug from the grateful woman. I just know that she thanked me and she was happy. It put a good smile on my face. Lee is a former Sierra College defensive lineman football player. He credits his time at the college football program for giving him the confidence to rescue her. The woman was taken to the hospital following the incident, where she was treated, for her leg and her injuries. And up next, a truck driver was put out of service after marijuana odor led to discovery of illicit substances during a roadside inspection. FMCSA ordered a Minnesota-based truck driver off the road for drug violations and defying a previous out-of-service order. The federal out-of-service order was issued to truck driver Jordan Andrew Bain March 5th. Authorities say that back in February, a roadside safety inspection of Bain's truck was conducted by Vermont DOT. While the officer asked Bain for his license and paperwork, she detected a strong odor of pot and asked for permission to search the cab and sleeper berth of the semi. They gave the officer permission. During the search, the officer found multiple containers full of substance that tested positive for marijuana, along with unlabeled pill bottle containing 3 different types of pills. The officer was able to determine all the pills to be Schedule II controlled substances for which Bain did not possess a prescription. The officer also found 2 synthetic urine kits, one of which had already been used. Bain was cited for possession of narcotic drug and ordered out of service for 24 hours. FMCSA says that Bain defied the 24-hour out-of-service order. Despite the out-of-service order less than 24 hours later, Bain was stopped by the same Vermont DOT officer, this time in Barre, Vermont, approximately 2 hours distance from Fairhaven. Bain had 2 prior convictions in Minnesota for driving under the influence and 1 conviction for driving under the influence of drugs. One was alcohol, one was drugs. When are they going to learn? Jerk him out of service for life. He's not going to learn. Before returning to duty, Bain must undergo evaluation by a certified medical examiner. See, they still didn't pull a CDL. He's a hazard to the road, people. Pull his frickin' CDL. But nope, you ain't gonna do that, are ya? And up next, a trooper gives tips for motorists who want to avoid being flattened by a big rig. An Oklahoma trooper recently took to Twitter to share common sense strategies for motorists on sharing the road safely with semi-trucks. Tuesday, March 11th, Oklahoma trooper shared a video on Twitter after he said that he noticed a lot of commercial vehicle crashes that aren't the fault of the truck driver. Quote, as I'm rolling around right now, I see that cars are cutting in and out of traffic in between these semi-trucks that have to leave a lot more distance to be able to stop. You got to realize that they weigh upwards of 85,000 pounds and they need more room to stop than a normal vehicle does. So if you cut in between that gap, they leave you, cut down their stopping distance. If you do that and you have to stop very quickly, you could be involved in a serious crash. His suggestion that car drivers are more often at fault for causing crashes than truck drivers is supported by a landmark ATA study from 2013 that found that car drivers were assigned factors in 81% of crashes versus 27% of truck drivers. It's just a landmark study when we all know that's in the frickin' business. I'm sorry, that just so frickin' irritates me. Not really, but anyway. And in this next story, a truck driver's windshield is shattered by two people that threw rocks from a Michigan overpass. Michigan State Police are investigating a truck driver's report that he was a victim of a rock throwing incident on Thursday. According to the police, the incident occurred at Battle Creek, Michigan, March 11th. A truck driver traveling east at I-94 reported seeing two people in gray hoodies standing on Capitol Avenue overpass. The driver said that the two suspects threw a rock from the overpass and shattered his windshield. Police did not indicate whether the truck driver was hurt. They say that investigating the incident as a cause of malicious destruction of property. I would get him for more than that, honestly. And a lawsuit is filed against the Texas DOT to halt $7 billion highway expansion project. A federal lawsuit has been filed in an effort to stop a $7 billion highway project in Houston. The lawsuit was filed by Harris County attorney on March 11th and proposes that the project would negatively impact minority residents who would be displaced as a result of the construction. Local officials say the project won't improve the traffic congestion in the area and that the Texas DOT failed to consider the environmental impacts on neighborhoods and businesses in those plans. According to Texas DOT, the proposed 10-year construction project would improve 24 miles along Interstate 45 and several other roadways, providing safer and more efficient travel for area residents as well as accommodate the transition to electric and self-driving vehicles. The Federal Highway Administration asked Texas DOT to put the project on hold earlier this week so that civil rights and environmental concerns could be reviewed, of course. I will let you read the rest of that article. It's quite lengthy. That will be in the show notes. And up next, suspects arrested minutes after robbing $10,000 worth of cigarettes from a truck driver. Two men are under arrest after robbing thousands of dollars in cigarettes from a truck driver in Boaz, Alabama. Mr. Brooks Jr., 30, and Lanier, 32, robbed a truck driver at the Murphy USA gas station and made a delivery around 9 a.m., said the local police chief. According to police, one of the men confronted the driver and told him to hand over cases of cigarettes. When the driver refused, the suspect climbed into the truck and threatened to become violent. Both suspects then started to unload the cigarettes from the back of the truck. Men took around $10,000 worth of cigarettes. Driver signaled to a store clerk to call 911. Officers spotted the vehicle and pursued the two men until they exited their car on a dead-end road. Men were arrested within minutes of the robbery. So there you go. They caught him. And lastly, do not take, this is for everybody who's wanting to come into the trucking industry. Here are 100 different questions that you should ask. Do not take a new truck driving job until you ask these 100 questions. Whether you're a veteran or a rookie driver, it can be hard to break through a driver recruiter's song and dance to get the information that you need about a job you're considering taking. That's why this list was put together of over 100 essential questions that you need to get answered before you take on a new job. So let's go through them. Is the company privately or publicly held? How many total employees do they have? How many drivers do the company currently have? What is the company's turnover rate? How many empty trucks does the company have right now? How many terminals do they have? How long has the average driver been with the company? What is the passenger policy? do they have a pet policy, and what is it? Next, what kinds of freight do they haul? In what states do they operate? What is the ratio of driver managers to drivers? What is the ratio of load planners to trucks? So how many driver managers do they have, in other words, and how many trucks does each driver manager or fleet manager have? Then for the load planners, how many trucks do they plan? What is the average length of a load? What is the average number of miles per tractor? How are the drivers' miles calculated, or how are they paid? Are they paid on short miles, practical miles, or household movers guide, or PC miler? I interjected the PC miler. What percent of your freight is drop and hook? Drop in one trailer, hook it up to another. Are drivers required to physically unload freight? Or do you have to tailgate it? Do you have to hand unload? How many hours are free before the driver starts receiving detention time? Does the company have multiple stop loads? How long do stops take to get offloaded on average? That varies if you're hauling produce. I'll tell you right now, as I'm recording this, I have been at the produce warehouse. I got here last night. I knew my load wasn't get ready till today. It's almost noon and it's still not ready. Is a company forced dispatch? How long? What happens if a driver refuses to take a dispatch for a legitimate reason? Are drivers able to stay within a certain geographical area? All right. Sorry, I missed a couple of slides here. Here we go. Caught up. Sorry about that. Drivers able to stay within a certain geographical area, or are they required to run wherever the company runs? Does your company use customer-based freight or brokered freight? Does the trucking company have an idle policy? Do they use satellite communications? Does the company use e-logs or paper logs? If the company uses e-logs, which system? PeopleNet? Qualcomm? Also, there's another one that our company is going to. System something or other. Or Keep Trucking app. There's a bunch of other ones out there. How long is the orientation process? Are new hires paid anything for orientation? Does the company pay for all travel arrangements? What method of travel does the company use? A flight, bus, rental car? Does the driver get their own hotel room, or are drivers required to room with another driver? Does the company expect the driver to pay them back for orientation expenses if the driver does not drive for them for a certain period of time? In other words, you have to be there 2 years, 90 days, whatever. After orientation is finished, how long will it take the driver to get dispatched home to pick up his or her gear? Are pets and passengers allowed to attend orientation with the driver? Probably not. Normally, you have to be there at least 90 days before you can have a pet or a passenger, normally. Because I've been a company driver for 28 years. So all the companies, they usually tell you 90 days. Does the companies have enough trucks for all of the drivers it hires at orientation, or will the driver need to travel to another facility or terminal to recover a truck after orientation is finished? These are all really good questions. How does the company pay? Bi-weekly, weekly, based off of the experience, how much is the company willing to pay me? What is the max rate of pay? How much can I work up to? How does the company handle raises? What type of benefits do they offer? Medical, dental, vision, life insurance, accidental death, disability, 401k, what is their vacation they have vacation pay? What about sick pay? And what about their payroll deductions? How long must a driver be employed before their benefits kick in? Does the company offer a fuel bonus program? Does the company offer a safety bonus program? What about a performance bonus program? They offer any sign-on bonuses? How does the sign-on bonus pay out? Does it pay out like $500 and you have to stay there in the first 30 days and another $500 in 6 months and another $500 in a year, 9 months to a year? How does that work? Does the company offer longevity bonuses or retention bonuses for 10-year drivers? People have been around the block like me, you know. After 5 or 10 years, do you get a bonus? Does the company offer a driver referral bonus? What about transition pay from changing from one employer to another? Does the company offer orientation pay? And I won't go into leasing the truck. That's mainly for the drivers. I should say that's mainly for, I'm discussing company drivers right now. Lease drivers would be a completely different animal. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you who tune in to listen to me each week here on the cafe. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe using the link below, or on CloudHub, please subscribe at the top of the page. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. As I said, please, if you wouldn't mind, stop in if you're on Facebook and give us a like on Facebook. Also join our discussion group at Julia's Trucking Cafe Regulars. And if you wouldn't mind, subscribing to our newsletter at juliastruckingcafe.com/newsletter. So thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time. You have been listening to Julia's Trucking Cafe Truckin' News Hour. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Take care. Have a blessed day.